Stoughton on Thursday, August 15th. We do have a quorum, and who would like to take a roll call? Anyone?
I can do that.
Thank you.
Daniel Payton,
Present.
Jean Legaki, absent.
Excused.
Greg Jensen,
Here.
Tom Majewski. Okay. Lisa Reeves,
Here.
John Sherlucky,
Absent and excused.
Brett Schumacher,
Here.
and Tim Swadley.
Yeah, I don't count toward the quorum, but I'm here.
All right. So we are certified in compliance with the open meeting law, and it's posted as the election of chair and vice chair, but
Yeah, by council rules, the council president is the chair, unless you want to delegate that, but I don't know if these
Anybody?
guys will let you.
anybody?
By all means.
Okay. Well, right. So next up is the approval of the minutes from August
Maybe
20.
the vice chair.
Oh, yeah, Brett. So approval of minutes from August 23rd of 2023. I would entertain a motion to approve unless there's any corrections or otherwise.
Motion to approve those minutes.
Second?
Any corrections, changes for those of you that have a better memory than I do? I did too, and I didn't note anything. All right, so all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes of August 23rd, 2023 are approved. So next is the budget overview. And Director Ellinger, is that something you'd like to start with, please?
Yes. Tim, can you put that PowerPoint up? Okay, thank you. We're seeing it in here, but not on Zoom. Then again, the only two people. Okay. Can you see it at home, Nicole Marie?
Well, in a minute.
Okay.
Oh,
Yep, you got it on Zoom now. Okay. You could just go to the next slide, please. Okay. This is what the agendas are planned for the two meetings. We've got, for lack of a better terms, the heavy hitters here with Public Works and Park and Recreation. Those are usually longer conversations. And then on the 22nd, we have got planning, IT, fire, and police. Those usually don't take as long, so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to finish on the 22nd. We've still got the 29th if needed, if the committee members want to take a week to ponder over it. And then the CIP, the mayor will take these suggestions from the committee and put those into the budget. We may do some tweaking, moving everything between years if we want to kind of stabilize the future debt levies, or if we discover that, okay, we are delayed for another 2 years for an ambulance or whatever the case is. And then budget adoptions on November 11th. Thank you. What we're looking at is how much we want to spend. 25 is the most important, but then when you have subsequent years, that gives you a kind of history where we think we're going to go forward. And working with Ellers, we actually create a fiscal forecast going forward. So those individuals who are asking for capital projects will be speaking. Others, like the city clerk who doesn't have any, there's no need for her to speak on nothing. And then you, of course, as the committee, can approve, deny in part, by department, or in total, however you'd like to do that. Next slide, please. So this is a little bit different format than we did. Nicole Murray's been playing with the pivot tables in Google Sheets, so we created this just so we could see it. So you've got totals by departments for each of the years. Can you slide down a little bit, Tim? I don't know if the totals can be seen on your screen or not. Nope, it doesn't look like it.
We can see them.
Oh, I can't see it on my screen. Okay, as long as everybody else can, that's fine. So I guess this is just a high-level overview of what the departments are asking for net amount of debt to be issued. For instance, the Stormwater and Streets Division has various funding sources that Brett will be talking about later, like the BIL federal grant and some other things. Next slide, please. This kind of shows that same information, but just more in a graphical format as to where we're getting all the funding from, whether it's by department, but it's debt issue and things like that. So some people learn better with charts and numbers. Other people like a more graphical presentation. So we tried including that to give a better view. Next slide, please. And here we get into a little bit more detail for each department as to how they're going to pay for things. So for instance, the ARPA fund, it's actually not user fee, it would be ARPA revenue, but I'm sorry, ARPA funds is there. It's a better indicator would be the Park Development Fund at the top. The current proposal is $875,000 in expenditures for 25, and we're anticipating to have $875,000 in impact fees available between what's come in 23 and 24 and what we assume is going to be coming in 25. So again, we're just looking at a grand total of 14.3 for the bottom line for the current year. Next slide. We do have the detailed listings by departments for those of you online or maybe looking at us on TV. You can look at those links to get the information. And next page, please. So in summary, we're looking to target, based upon conversations that we had last year, approximately 11 to 12 million total for CIP projects, with about $8 million for streets and the remaining 3 to 4 million for other projects. Now that's not saying that we have to get that, but if we try and keep us at a level consistent, that will help with keeping the debt levy level in future years. However, we may have to index up those amounts in a subsequent year just because, as Brett well knows, prices increase every year for construction. If we go lower than that target, we've got the potential that we can have general transportation aids lowered. So working with Brett, I looked at the numbers, and for the street improvement projects, I asked if we could find another $200,000 to put into current year to keep us at funding level, and he had a parking lot that he wanted to do. So we were able to retain that, but we're always targeting looking forward. And just a reminder again, on a previous city council meeting, I had indicated that this is the last year that we're going to get general transportation aid funding based upon the building of the Public Works building. So it's going to drop in the subsequent year, And with projections, it's going to take another 5 years to get back where we need to be. So that's another reason we don't want to drop our street improvements projects. Next page. If there is a next page. Okay. That's just kind of a high-level overview. You know, I didn't want to get into numbers because right now we're just basically talking concepts. So I'm going to first ask if anybody has any questions on what I was talking about or the budget process at all.
Are those paper copies for us that
Yes.
I walked by, so maybe we could, I'll just grab those before we get going. Anyone have any questions about what Dave has gone over so far? So before we get going, Mayor Swadley reminded me that we do still have, the vice chair is not an automatic, so we do need to elect a vice chair for the committees, or for the CIP committee. So I would entertain a motion for a vice chair for the committee.
I nominate Craig Jensen.
All right, oops, thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
No, you.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Are you comfortable with this? I will probably be gone by November 11th, so you would be running that meeting, just giving you fair warning if you're willing to accept.
Yeah.
No, actually,
Oh, it'd be at council then, that's right.
yep,
Okay,
and then it would be Brett,
okay,
probably.
all right. All right, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Oh, Greg is our vice chair, so sorry about being a little backwards there. So if there's no questions for Director Ellinger, we will get going with the department presentations for the capital improvement plan, and library is up first.
All right, thank you. I'm not sure how I got lumped in with the heavy hitters tonight, but I only have a
Because
couple
you
things
asked
for
to
you.
be tonight.
What's that?
You asked to be on the
That's
agenda
true,
tonight.
I did, yes. I did. So, I don't know, I do have some PowerPoint slides, but I can do this with or without the slides if they're in the packet. I don't know.
Mayor, I can share my screen if you want me to do that part of it.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm not seeing it. Well, thought it did.
Might be the PDF version of the slides.
All right. Okay. I do too somewhere.
This is Nicole Marie's. It's item number 7. A.
All right, thank you.
There it is.
Great. So the first item, I only have 2 items for 2025 for CIP for the library. The first is a recurring item. The other one is also a recurring item. But this first item is for computers and peripheral replacements. This is like I said, a recurring item. We can go on to the next slide. Thanks. So this is a recurring item, as I said already 2 times. We budgeted, I increased the amount slightly in 2020 and again in 2023 to keep up with the rising costs of technology, but I see no need to increase it for 2025. These funds purchase replacement computers, both staff machines and those for use by the public, as the devices age out and become obsolete. South Central Library System, the 7-county library consortium of which we're a member, they provide us with network and PC support. They have a recommended replacement schedule for all of the devices we own. Am I feeding back?
Sound okay?
Okay, sorry. Equipment, we purchased the equipment through the South Central Library system, so we get the discounted state rate. Typically, a device will start out its life as a staff station and then make its way to a public internet computer and on to a public access catalog station before reaching the end of its useful life and being recycled. So I'm requesting $7,000 in the 2025 CIP for this item, for computer and peripheral replacement. And again, that's identical to the amount requested last year. You can go on to the next one. The next item for 2025 is furniture and fixtures replacements. Oh, right, yeah.
It says 6,700, not 7,000, so
Oh.
is that an adjustment?
No, it should be 7. You see 67? No, it should be 7. I'm not sure how that got adjusted down.
Oh,
Sorry about that. No, that should be 7. Is that something we can adjust, Dave?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we can tweak it at any time. They was to moved it down cost for 24. I'm going from memory here. You spent about $6,400 in 24 for computer equipment.
Oh, did we?
And so I
Okay.
said, okay, I'm going to increase it to 6,700. And then I started indexing it up by 200 each year. Again, I'm going from memory, but
Okay,
I think
I
that's what
understand.
happened.
Okay, yeah, I think 7 was the figure that I had put in BSNA, but I didn't see that the same. Well, yeah, 6,700 if. Okay, I agree with that. So the next item on here is for furniture and fixtures replacements. Again, this is a recurring item. This was first included in the CIP budget last year. So prior to 2023, there was no budget line for us for purchasing replacement furniture and fixtures. In years past, we had scraped together whatever leftover money we might have had from the 2015 renovation or from gift funds. When we had to expand shelving on the second floor, for example, and buy a new display for the mezzanine level back in 2019. We also, for example, purchased standing stools for all of our service desks in 2021. We didn't have a budget line for this, so like I said, we just had to kind of scrape together. New and expanding collections and changing use of the space, especially post-pandemic, require new furniture and fixture solutions. In 2023, we spent this on new seating for our teen section. We had removed some desktop PCs in that location because we found that people are more and more bringing their own devices to the library, and the demand for dedicated internet terminals, so to speak, has decreased. So it's things like that. Different ways that people are using the space and different ways that our collection and our services are growing and adjusting. Does anybody have any questions about those? Those are like I said, those are the only two I have for 2025. The rest of the items here are for future years. For 2026, looking at replacing the carpet in the lower level of the library. This carpet was replaced sometime after the major addition to the library building in 1990, but no one is sure when. It's the oldest carpet in the building and is really showing its age. We had the carpets professionally cleaned last year, which extended the life a bit. This area is only about 500 square feet. It includes the area right outside of the Carnegie Room and the staff break room. The Carnegie Room carpet was replaced in 2019. Also in 2026, another project we're looking at is the replacement of our security cameras. These cameras were last replaced in 2009, so they're kind of ancient by technology standards. The DVR was replaced fairly recently, 2021, so that won't have to be replaced. The image quality on these cameras has always been rather poor. Derek in IT tells me that the system is wired with coaxial cable and that these are the highest quality images that the system can produce. So this cost is an estimate to replace the existing cameras, maybe add or move a few, and pull new wires. The last item for a future year I have, and I have this one penciled in for 2027, is a space needs study. Next year, our building, the addition to our building, will be 35 years old. The original building, of course, is 117 years old, if you're counting. The original addition to the building having been completed in 1990. Library services have changed a lot since then, you can imagine. Our most acute needs are for programming and meeting space, and I know that there's a need overall for meeting space among all the city facilities, and especially in the downtown area. We also have needs for staff workspace and for storage space. But programming and meeting room space are really our two most acute needs. A comprehensive space needs study was completed in 2007 and found the library to be 10 to 12,000 square feet short of accommodating a community the size of Stoughton. Since then, various areas have been remodeled, notably the second floor in 2015, but no additions have been made. The building stands as it did in 1990 at 16,000 square feet. Next year, in 2025, we plan to carry out a preliminary space needs assessment with the help of a consultant from our library consortium, the South Central Library System. This service is included in our membership in the consortium. This is a kind of preliminary look at our space that will help inform this larger study. This budget item is for a comprehensive space needs study with an architectural firm similar to the one being completed this year with public safety. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? All right. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
For being here.
Yeah, thanks.
So next is finance.
Thank you. Mine's going to be fairly short. First thing I have on there for 25 is the fixed asset module for BSNA software. Since we've, at least since 2007 and probably before, we've had Baker Tilly track our capital assets. The report that comes out is not very useful. Departments are having a hard time finding their assets. We've discovered that assets have been on there twice, or something that was gotten rid of a decade ago is still on there. So we're going to be taking that in-house to get things a little bit better. The second item, BSNA software, migrate to the cloud platform. Eventually, we are going to have to move that route. BSNA is currently supporting what we have, but that is going to have to change in the future. There seems to be a communication breakdown somewhere because IT was going to get rid of the server that we need, but I'm not going to be implementing the software next year. There's way too much work that we have to do. So a new BSNA platform is, it's essentially putting in a new computer system. The department heads and those others, people that use it now, it'll be pretty seamless to them because, you know, it's the same software, should be the same accounts or something similar, but for us in finance, we've got to configure everything. So that's why I say it's a whole new system. So I've got it tentatively planned for 28. I've heard through the grapevine that we will have to adjust IT's CIP budget within a year or two, either this year or next year, for a new server to continue BSNA on our platform. That's all I wanted to bring up for Finance Department. Anybody have any questions on that?
Do you know the estimated cost to add a new server after we've gotten rid of our servers, being cloud-based on every other aspect of the city?
Again, I just heard in conversation today 100,000, but I do not know the value. John is on vacation this week.
Yeah.
He's obviously going to be speaking next week. We'll have that answer before the next meeting.
Woof. All right.
Any other questions for finance? All right, if not, we will move on to municipal court, and I didn't see a total. Is there an item there that I'm just not seeing, or?
Well, municipal court is in 26.
Okay.
We were notified by the vendor that we used for the court system last year that within 5 years we're going to have to switch over to new software because they will be cloud-based also. And for conversation's sake, I just put it in the 26 budget so that you're aware of it. That's something that I will have to talk to Judge Dirks and the municipal clerk about to see when they want to do it. I think 26 is probably going to be ambitious for them. Just being the new judge, he'll probably have some other priorities than changing software. But if we don't do it in 26, it's probably going to be 27 then. Any questions on that topic?
Right, I guess not. So next up is going to be the Public Works Show. And I believe Superintendent King, did you want to get started with the Parks and Recreation CIP?
Yeah, and I did, after speaking with Dave and Nicole Marie, we did space out some of our impact fee projects. I updated it, and I'm not sure if this is the most up-to-date PowerPoint. I updated a few things. I put it in the shared drive. I don't know if we can go look quick. I can help you find it.
Should be the last one that you sent me,
Yeah,
is
I don't
what's
know.
in our folder.
Well, hopefully that one's the most updated. We'll find out. We'll find out together.
With that said, the Excel spreadsheets do show the updated split out by year.
Oh, they do. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. So we can get started then. So how I kind of broke this down, I broke it down into 3 sections, kind of starting with the general obligations, then the park development projects, and then the carry forward requests. Thank you. So starting with some of the general park improvement stuff. Some of these things are yearly things, like our picnic table replacements and park amenities. We need to replace trash cans, benches, signs, etc. One of them that is coming up is the Bioin Park Shelter. The roof is due for replacement out there. And then in a couple years, we will actually also be replacing the playground out there. So that park in general has kind of had its lifespan with the amenities that are out there. And so we're going to start looking to start phasing in those changes and those replacements. Also, we have the ADA transition implementation. One thing I did speak with Dave about with this was, in the past we've had like around $40,000 or $35,000 to $40,000 earmarked for some of these projects, and we haven't been hitting that number, this year included. I have spoken with Supervisor Edwards in Parks about some upcoming ADA projects, and so we will be getting a number done in the next few months with some projects, some bike rack pads, and oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just wondering about the ADA.
Can you turn on your mic, please?
Is there any mandate from the feds on implementation? I mean, as to, what time frame?
I'm not sure on the exact time.
There isn't a mandate, but we did do a transition plan, so we have to be executing on that plan to stay current, if you will. So if we don't keep moving forward with our plan, then the Department of Justice could come back at us and say, hey, why aren't you doing
Okay,
this?
But there's no, you have to have this all done by this particular date?
No, we just need to keep marching forward.
Okay.
We're about 20 years behind on our.
Yeah, and so we do have,
And also,
go ahead.
just pet peeve of mine, your PowerPoint, do not use disabled, or use disabled, not handicapped.
I guess I'm not even sure where that's listed, I'm sorry, but, oh, I see, okay. Gotcha, yes. And, yeah.
It's a very derogatory term.
Oh, okay. Yep, I can update that in the future, thank you. So with this plan, we do have a long list of updates that we're looking to do. And so we are looking to get started on most of those this year. And I kind of went back through it with Dave, and you know, he had a recommendation based on past years, but with the amount that we have, we think we can actually do about $20,000 for next year. And I know on that PowerPoint it says 40, but we are looking, and I'm not sure what it says in the packet, I guess. Is that updated, that 5,000 number you had?
I'll look here. It's at 5,000, right,
Okay.
in the Excel.
Yep, so, and I believe I sent you an email on that, looking to do 20,000, so that's what we're asking for. The 5,000 that Dave based was, again, based on the amount that we had done in the years past, but we do have a long list of projects that we need to do still to get up to date. And some of those are based on parks that need to be updated as well, so as those come online, these projects are part of those as well.
And we got slammed lately with a lot of changes in presentations, so.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
of course, yes.
We'll get to it. So you want that at 20?
Yes,
Okay.
yep.
I think the other thing to note is that, the other thing to note is that we are earmarking specific projects within the year and not just putting a blanket 20 grand. You know, we do have projects that are outlined in that transition plan that we're taking out and saying, all right, we're gonna do these 15 projects and here's what it's gonna cost. Before it wasn't really like that, so.
So the 20,000, sorry, which line item is that? The ADA transition plan?
Correct.
First one under Parks and
So
Rec, yeah.
it's not 5, it's 20, but it's not 40 either. Right,
Correct,
okay.
yeah, so that's one of the updates I made after
Gotcha.
speaking with, Finance
you.
Director, yep. And you can kind of see a list of some of the deficiencies, again, listed below there, so that's what, we do have a long list of things to update, so. Moving on to the Jefferson Street pedestrian bridge, and I may have Director Abear help me with this one.
Yeah, I can
This kind of
take
got
this
added
one.
late,
Yeah, this is, well, it was always on there, but this has been a legacy project. Alder Mayeski, you remember this from years ago, just, you know, being on here and then being kicked down the road, so to speak. So lately, we have engaged with the property owner because there was some issues with the abutment needing to go farther to the north, which was on private property. So we have engaged with that property owner down there on the west side of the river. We're in conversation with this person. They seem more amenable to discussion than the previous owner. I think the previous owner was pretty fast no, you're not taking this. And because it is a pedestrian bridge, we cannot use eminent domain or taking, so we need to have a willing participant for it. I'm optimistic that we have that person now. So in the budget, there's like $550,000, I believe, for that bridge. There's a little bit of inflation. A few years ago, it was around 500,000. So we are looking to put a bridge in that's similar to the one that's currently there at Man Park to keep it consistent. So we are looking to have that installed in 2025. The current bridge, I'm sure many of you have seen it or have walked across it. It has surpassed its life expectancy. We have cobbled it together, if you will. It's not going to fall down tomorrow. However, it needs to go, needs to be replaced. We get it inspected each year because it is so. I don't want to give a false statement that it's going to fall down because it's not, but it is in bad shape and we need to replace it. Any questions on that one in particular?
That was one that we talked about potentially trying to get a grant for at least a portion of it.
Yeah, we'll still actively pursue those. Yep.
Yeah, and that grant, it will open up in February, and then May 1st is when they start accepting those and giving out the points for those grants. Is there another slide with this one too? One more slide. That shows the map?
Yep.
Oh, no,
Tony,
it's not on here.
regarding that grant, is that pretty certain that we will receive it, or it's uncertain at this time?
Uncertain at this time.
Okay, so we don't want to budget for the
Correct.
grant revenue then?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So this ain't the most up to date. Yeah.
So I have a couple really quickly, and we've talked about this at length
Yeah.
with the Parks Committee. But just as a reminder for the bridge itself, you're talking about term, like we shouldn't consider allocating this money in 26 because of its life or because of the penalties related to the inspection or the safety of our residents. Like, this is something that should be done this year if it's going to be done. Otherwise, we could find some negative consequences from it being kicked another year down the road.
Yeah, so it's scheduled for 2025. So the biggest thing is that we think we have a willing participant to get this done. That's been the hang up for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I guess what was the question?
No,
That's in
at that,
disrepair.
I just wanted to affirm that we're not going to consider moving it to another year. It needs to happen this year.
Yeah, I hope not.
Because you said this year, I thought you meant 24.
That's-
No, 20,
what I thought.
the year we're considering,
Yes.
25, yeah, in
Thank
the
you.
context
Yes.
in which we live, this is
Yes.
the year I'm considering. So, yeah,
The history
25.
of it is.
Yes.
Is they did a fairly substantial repair on
Right.
it a few years ago
Yep.
to get it to this point. And with the new standards, it has to be wider, and that's why you're looking at the land acquisition.
Yeah, so we're moving to a 12-foot wide bridge. You know, typically it's 10 feet, but we are accounting for some people to do some fishing off the bridge. So we want to make it a wide enough bridge that you can recreate on. And also the railings are not up to code, so those will be all made higher essentially. So there's a host of deficiencies that this bridge, I mean, was put in 100 years ago. So it needs to be removed and replaced ASAP.
So,
Will the
sorry.
12 feet be wide enough to get a semi across?
Well, if you're, there will be, so great question. So years ago, somebody did drive a semi across this bridge.
Oh, how fun.
Yeah, so.
That was really smart of them.
It held up.
Oh,
But there'll be.
He didn't quite make all the way.
yeah.
There'll be a
That's
series
interesting.
of bollards put in at the entrance on both sides.
That's just as smart as taking a tank from the artillery and driving it down the 5 freeway. Sounds about right.
It was a hold my beer and watch this kind of a.
I think
Awesome. The other thing I wanted to ask about it too is because it's over $500,000 and our target for the CIP process is between $11 and $12 million, so there is going to be somewhere, if we try to stick to that target, like the willing participant piece of it puts it a little bit in the air for us to then kind of earmark that much money in consideration of the following other cuts we may have to make in this area. So I guess we've made a lot of urgency arguments about this, but what else would you say, like, we should make sure that this is done and held on to, even though it could be a little uncertain?
If I may, the 11 to 12 was just a guideline we
Sure.
kind of developed last year. The CIP for 24 had a debt issue of 13 million, so we were kind of over that already.
And we're sitting at 14.3 from what your spreadsheet indicated. So in either case, there's some areas where we need to kind of consider fiscal responsibility about stuff. So this might be a question for everybody that comes through with big big projects, I personally understand, but I just want to make sure on the record this is.
Yeah, and a lot of those are going to be choices that you guys will have to make, you know, in consultation with us, you know, prioritizing the different projects. This one's been a legacy one for quite some time. We're going to make every effort to work with this property owner to get it done.
Right.
So we'll keep engaging with her and let her know the need for it and try to make her whole the best we can. There's some parking considerations down there that are the big issue. I think we have some workarounds with some right-of-way that we can trade with her, so to speak. So we'll keep working through that with some urgency. Hopefully within the next, I'm hopeful within the next month or so that we can kind of get some surety to you guys that, hey, this is going to happen, and get some easements in place, and get that done.
Sounds good.
All right, moving along to North Park shelter replacement. So this one, continuing to work along with the corp recommendations. North Shelter is also kind of ending or nearing the end of its life cycle. The rest of the park has now been updated. So we do have a new playground out there. We have the sport court. We have the tennis courts out there. So that, and then the baseball diamond has been redone. So things are looking really good out there, except for this. So this is kind of the next piece of that puzzle. So this would plan is for design and engineering in 2025, and then construction and replacement in 2026.
So on the design and engineering, right now this is, I'm going to call it a warming house, is that accurate?
Yep.
Which really isn't utilized because of the way our winters have been lately.
Right.
What is the plan for kind of the vision out there for this replacement?
I think the plan is to just kind of make it an open air kind of shelter with restrooms, kind of similar to like a Virgin Lake style. I don't think we need to go with the warming house down there anymore, but that's something we still need to discuss, because I don't know if it's still feasible to try and continue to do an ice rink at that location. I think with some of our future developments, we're starting to look at using the stormwater and retention ponds as potential ice rinks in the winter, and coming up with some ways to use that and maybe focus on those areas instead for icing.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, is this not on? When did that turn off? Sorry, thought I had that on the whole time. Thanks.
I think they turn off.
Huh?
They turn off on their own.
Oh, they turn off on their own.
A certain amount of time.
Oh, okay. Good to know. All right. Do you guys need to do I need to repeat all that?
I have a question. How big is this shelter?
It's got I think it has 6 picnic tables underneath, and then 2 restrooms.
So we're going to spend $150,000 on just the design and engineering for it, when we can get prepackaged ones for probably and save that cost?
Potentially, we could get a cheaper price with a prepackaged. Sure, that's an option we could look at. Again, this is just going off of what design and engineering has been for the other parks that are coming up. It's the kind of all the costs are going up for everything. So
I understand that, but after Alder Payton was just talking about a deficit and we have to look for places to start tightening.
Sure.
This may be a spot where we need to look at a pre-designed.
Mm-hmm.
They're not necessarily lower quality, but they're just pre-designed.
One thing we could look at is a design build type of deal. At Man Park right now, we're looking at that for the shelter. Those are not inexpensive. It seems like everything that we've looked at and done our due diligence on.
Everything's expensive.
Yeah, but I think we can look at some alternatives and also make it high quality and aesthetically pleasing and all that good stuff. But there is definitely some opportunity, I think, and I think some of the prefab stuff, they're getting better. I believe that. They don't look like some of your county parks, that are two-holers, if you will. So I think they're getting better with some aesthetic attributes to them. So I think, a good point. There could be some design build type stuff we could do. So it could be some of the design, we go with a design build company in 25, we pay for some of that design, and then that goes into the build in 26.
Yeah, and it is a high-traffic park. It's one of our more popular ones, especially with the merchants playing out there and the new playground out there. So just thinking of, yeah, kind of what we've seen for those design builds are, a lot of them are
I
kind of
see the
cookie cutter.
academy buses going out there all the time.
Oh, yeah.
To that park too, so
Right.
it's very highly
I want
utilized.
to see nice-looking buildings, high-quality buildings. I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions on that? Keep checking my mic. All right, Magnolia Springs restoration. So this one actually started, it starts this year. So this was approved last year, but just continuing for each year to kind of show out what the process is for that. This year we'll be starting with woody clearing this winter when the ground starts to freeze. So there's a lot of invasives out there that need to be removed. And then moving into the spring, they will do a full herbicidal kill of the invasives, and then do native seed planting after that. And so that's kind of the plan for the 2025 process. They'll also, along the new trail through Magnolia Springs, they'll be doing native seeding along that path and begin mowing as well.
And just to note, this is all parkland development too?
Correct.
So this is all the Magnolia Springs development that's paying for these upgrades?
Yep, so yes, correct, not part of the
Installation,
borrowing.
I should say.
Correct. And then just so you know, we did end up going with Premier Prairie and Wetland to do this restoration plan. So they came in as the low bid for this project, and again, they're getting started this November or December based on weather. Any questions on that? Okay. Moving along to the South Loop Trail. So this is one that was approved last year for engineering. So that has begun, and I believe we have. Let me see here. Double check. Yeah, Strand doing the engineering for this, and so this will connect Lowell Park to the Magnolia Springs development, and then eventually connect to the trail further to the west as that area expands. I believe on the next slide we have a map we can show of it. There we go. So you can see on there, wait a second, I'm on the wrong one here. Coming from West Milwaukee Street, connects through, and it does avoid the wetland outside of that red connection. It was the Park and Rec Committee's suggestion to still connect that West Chicago Street to the trail, because I guess there is kind of a makeshift trail connection there already. So that's one part that we have to figure out still, if it's going to be a small boardwalk portion through there, or what the plan is for that, because there will be a little bit additional permitting needed to go through that wetland area. But
So tell me, the black line is the trail?
yeah, the black line is the trail. Yep. So there's nothing going through wetland through that, but that red line is a portion that goes through a small parcel of wetland. Any questions on that? And that should be a great connection. They have that Magnolia Springs Trail done now, so you can kind of now see when you're out there where that's going to connect, and it'll be a nice connection for us. Let's see here. I'm just catching up too. Sorry here. Next I have, okay, this one. So yeah, this is one of the updates. So I actually did take this one out of here just because we don't really know where we're at and what's happening at this site yet. So I spoke with Director Aber about this, and we wanted to do this trail in conjunction with the road project here. And so it sounds like that's a couple years out?
So the road project for Cooper's Causeway, we put that strategically in 2027 because we are unsure, and Director Munz Pritchard is unsure of what their plans are for that parcel. Remember, through council, they look to combine that parcel into one, and swap land, if you will, right-of-way, give us more right-of-way along the road, and then they would essentially take the right-of-way that's through the parcel in the blue on your map. And so we are still unclear on what they're going to be doing with that property. And so until that time, we feel we should not be doing any improvements there until we know those details.
So are you removing or moving it to 27?
I think we were gonna move it to 26.
So the road project's in 2027, so I would recommend that we move that to 2027 to coincide with that. In 2025, the end of this year, 2025, I think we should be getting more information on this parcel, I would hope. And so if that does take off and they move forward in 2025 or early 2026, I think next year we'd be better prepared to say, okay, we need to go in 2026 with Cooper's Causeway, or we can leave it in 2027.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd recommend we put in 2027, and we can adjust that next year as we know more that's going on with that development.
Oh, yep, sounds good.
So see, saved 150.
Well, not this year.
Yeah, just kick the can down the road, right? But I think it's unfair to move forward that project until we know more with that development.
All right, so next are park projects that are using impact fees. So these are like non-borrowing projects. So up first, we have that Magnolia Springs Park Development and Tigan Farm Park. So this one, the plan is and kind of with all of these, as impact fees come in, the plan is to phase in all of these parks. So starting typically with playgrounds, if they do have playgrounds, and trail systems so that they can be used right away. And then eventually, as we get in more impact fees, if they have shelters and bathrooms, we'll add those as well. As a lot of these projects you'll see are kind of in neighborhoods, so kind of feel like the bathroom side of things can come at the end of the park development for that. So with Tigan Farms Park, planning it based on what we've seen, and again, this is one discussion I had with Director Ellinger about the amount of impact fees that we've received so far, or that are projected. So 2025, 150,000, and 2026, 50,000. So that is our plan to get started with Tigan Farm Park.
Tony,
Yes.
question for you on that.
Yeah.
On Magnolia Springs Park, there, I walked by there the other day, and that pond there is pretty stagnant.
Yes.
Do we have plans for correcting that?
Yeah, so that, earlier with the restoration plan,
Yeah.
that is addressing that. That will address that. And the other thing too is we do have to figure out, when the water level drops, there is a drainage system there, and it must be clogged. Because you can see on the other side of the trail, that makeshift trail that's in there, it's trickling out the other side. So we're waiting for that water level to drop a little bit so we can find that, because right now I'm not sure where that's located in there. But
Basically, it's a vertical.
it's a
pipe.
vertical, and it has
And
nothing
it's an
on the
overflow.
cap.
So what needs to happen is we need to find that, clean it out, and
Yep.
put a beehive on the top that prevents sticks and things from getting down in there, and then just maintain that going forward.
Yep.
So you can almost walk
No.
on that pond right now.
No.
Have we accepted any public improvements there yet?
No.
So, I mean, it's, at this point, a lot of this stuff isn't really our responsibility,
Correct.
but maybe we can talk to the developers and see what they can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's in their developer's agreement to improve the park.
I think it's just the
To
trails.
do that, it's just to install the trail network. And then we got to take it from there using development impact fees,
Right.
parkland development fees.
Yep. All right. So Eggleston Woods, oh yeah, go ahead.
I have a question that's a little off topic, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So with each of these parks that you're developing, what's the anticipated increase in man hours needed to maintain and keep them where we want them?
That's a good question, and that's something we started looking at the personnel for years out. And as these come online,
in the CIP, we do have additional equipment being asked for, as we build out, especially to the north and west, another mower, a wide area mower. Of course, with that comes adding people to the seats. So that's all in that operational budget and capital budget for equipment.
Yeah, you might recall, last year we added a staff for this year. Actually, we hired them before the end of the year. And then with the movement of Tony and Jeremy and Heather out to the Public Works, we actually gained some man hours with Jeremy because he was doing mostly administrative work at City Hall. So that's helped us. Obviously, we're going to need more staffing. I anticipate some requests coming out of one of the two departments out there.
Just think getting a number, of man hours per, by acreage for parks would be helpful for everybody, especially when it comes time when I'm sitting on planning commission and we have developments coming up online that people are asking and we're requiring more parks, and so that we can understand the true impact of what a development's going to cost. Because right now we're getting little bits and pieces. We're not getting a true picture of what an actual development costs to adding to the community.
Sure.
It's like, because you're going to be adding streets, you're going to be adding parks, you're going to be, and on top of that, there's the EMS stuff, there's public safety stuff, there, this, that, the other. Nobody talks about that stuff when it comes to when we're looking at developments, and I think we need to start doing that. And a good place to start is by getting the baseline data, and that's one of the things that I'd like to see happen sooner than later.
Yeah, and I would say we've already implemented strategies. So, for example, when I first became mayor, one of the things we were doing is we were maintaining the ball diamonds at Oak Knoll Park. We no longer do that. When the pandemic came, that was an opportunity for us to step back and let Pleasant Springs work with the Baseball Association to do that maintenance. We also had some responsibilities at the high school baseball field. We no longer have any responsibility there at the high school. We had a baseball diamond at Bioyne that was taken out. We replaced it with some native grasses, which is less maintenance. And then this year at Man Park, we're in the process of this year and next year to remove the softball diamond down there and try to have more centralized locations out at Racetrack Park. We're looking at doing something similar for soccer fields to make it more efficient for city staff to go out there and maintain them, and then put in amenities like the grasses that don't need as much maintenance. Same thing with the roundabouts. We had a lot of conversations about maintaining roundabouts. We tried to come up with a design that required less maintenance but still met the needs of the community aesthetically. So I think there's been a lot of good work that's done, and it's hard to really get a baseline because we're already transitioning some of these implementation ideas. But your point is well taken. I know Brett and I have talked about putting together a multi-year plan for staffing.
Yeah, we've talked about a 5-year plan. Just looking at the prospective development that's happening, you can kind of see we have a map that we look through and look at what could potentially be out there. So a lot of it has to do with mobile acres. All these developments that are going in have a trail network, which is great for the community. We just need to make sure that we're staffed up to take care of it.
And I appreciate the mayor's strategies, but the strategies doesn't help me when it comes time to when the question is being asked at a commission meeting.
Sure.
Or the alders when they're looking at the request to annex and or to approve a development, and they have no idea what that actually means when it comes to the budget and what happens. Strategies are wonderful things, and they do great things, but that doesn't help us to make decisions in a logical and in a manner that's strong and defendable.
Yeah, and same thing with conversations we have with our state officials, because obviously, you know, all of our expenses go up as well, so now we have more work and more expenses to go with it. Cost of labor, cost of supplies. We've been really fortunate. We have a pretty active Prairie Task Force that's really helped us out, so hopefully that group will continue to grow, because I know that's hard work, and it's on the weekends, and you know, these guys have done a really nice job supporting them, but as the community grows, there's going to be a lot of opportunities, you know, for more maintenance that needs to be done. So I think your point's well taken. Not really sure how we put together a matrix, but I think that's something we can talk about.
Yeah, I think we get a baseline of where we're at now and what's coming online that we know of, and then what we're projecting to, because we have some projections out there of land that's ripe for development. So I think we can put a projection out there, and we've already had these discussions. It's not lost on us, believe me, because we're also talking about potential burnout for current staff, and that's a very real thing.
Are there statistics that are coming from like either the state, county, or the league or other groups that show per person? Because I think this also speaks to Alder Majewski's point is there should be some data out there for other growing communities as to how they've needed to grow. I think even at some council meetings when we've talked about like EMS growth, that so many people means you have so many more services, or how large the service needs to be. So if there are statistics like that that help us have that argument too, that would be overall.
Chomping at the bit, because yeah, there's a document out there that has it. I think Director Glenn had presented that a couple years ago.
That's National Parks and Recreation Association.
I think there's so much per mobile acres or parkland. So there is that data out there
as a reference point for our projection build.
Yeah, just using that as a tool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, there's also, I sent Dave and Nicole Marie some stuff from the Wisconsin Policy Forum. They're starting to gather data based on some of the reporting that all the municipalities throughout Wisconsin provide the state. I don't know if they're, at this point, they're not at this level of detail. It's more big picture, like tax rates, it's property values, it's public safety expenses, it's EMS expenses. But I think that as municipalities start utilizing that data and it becomes, you know, valuable, where, you know, our associations would probably purchase that data, I think that gives them an opportunity to create more of that. So at least we can see what's going on, and you can filter it out by Dane County, or you could filter it out by communities with similar populations. So some of that is in the process of being developed. There's been a lot of talk at the meetings about using AI to generate that information, because it's all out there. It's a lot more efficient to extract it using AI than it is to use people. So I anticipate in the next several years that there's going to be more tools like that available to us.
And I don't want to get too far off topic, but I do wonder, how often are park development fees renegotiated? And
so our fees go up every year, I believe, based on the cost of the consumer price index or construction index or something. Yeah. I forget the exact one. So we do have something built into that, and that was something that Director Glenn had updated before he left, and we had a consultant, we had the city attorney, and ultimately it was adopted. So those fees should keep up.
Yeah, I think it was updated in January of this year, January, February.
Yep.
Yeah, so Mike Stacy, I believe, updated that before he left for this year, and that'll continue, I assume, with Nick Miles.
Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to Eggleston's Woods. So this has begun. Engineering is complete, and the playground is being installed this November. This is another one that we ended up breaking down into separate years based on expected impact fees. So the PowerPoint up there is not the most up to date, but we do now have for 2025 $250,000 expected in impact fees, 2026 $160,000, and 2027 $70,000. So again, we'll do a similar kind of phasing in. Again, we're starting with the playground, and then we'll move to the shelter, restroom, and trail system following that. Next, we have Standard Legacy Park. This one, the engineering has begun for this as well, as this was approved last year. The plan is to, again, phase in, so we are planning to start with the playground again. And then, just so you know, for us to save some money on these, we have been doing the playground on inside. So I've been contacting different playground companies, getting bids for the playgrounds and designs instead of having the engineer companies do that, just to save money. So that way we can get in all the amenities in this park, because there is a number of them. One thing I do still with this park that I want to discuss, and I brought it up once with our Park and Rec Committee, though, is that, this shows pickleball courts. It is a very tight neighborhood around this area, so that's another thing I kind of want to look at with the Park and Rec Committee, and maybe speak to the folks that are moving into this neighborhood and see if that's something that is still desirable or not. Just because pickleball is loud. I'm an avid pickleball player, but I don't know if I'd want to live across the street from pickleball courts. So.
And this one is 51 West on the west side of 51 behind Stoughton Lumber.
Yep.
Yeah, and as Tony mentioned, he's basically the general contractor for this. And then Brett's team has been doing a lot of the cement flat work in-house to save money. And then you might recall last year, during the budgeting process, I instructed Director Glenn and Director Ellinger to set up individual line items in our BS&A software for each park. And then they work with the planning department to track the impact fees when the building permit is pulled. They track when it was pulled, which park it was for, so the money goes into those accounts, and that's why you're seeing these phased approaches. In the past, often we would just borrow the money for the whole park and do the whole thing, and then we'd be paying interest on money because we hadn't collected the impact fees, so our dollars weren't going as far. And they're trying to kind of project, and we don't want to have it fully developed and then install everything, so they're trying to time that out appropriately, which I don't know if there's an art to that, but we're trying to figure that out on the fly here.
Well, I think it's important to keep adding amenities to the park, and working with the developers too, because obviously they're trying to sell lots and build it out. And the more lots that are sold, the more impact fees we get in to actually finish the park, so it's a win-win for everybody.
Yep. All right, moving on to Teenasic Park. So with this one also, the engineering is currently underway for this park. Again, plan is to phase this in. So up there on the PowerPoint, I've now broken, Director Ellinger and I have broken these down into separate years as we expect the impact fees to come in. So for 2025, it's actually $300,000, 2026, $200,000, and 2027, $425,000 are the expected impact fees. So with this, the plan for 2025 is to phase in the playground first, and then if the engineering's done in time, and if we can help maybe in-house, I'd really like to see the sledding hill get done this year, 2024, prior to the sledding season. I don't know if this is possible or not, but
we hope so.
yeah, we can do it.
This is Kettle Park West, for those of you that don't know where the Teenasic is.
Yes, sorry. And then I think I have the map on the next slide. You can kind of see the overall plan for this park here. So this is also the one that eventually the plan is to have a pump track out there. And with that pump track, one thing we have also discussed is kind of making that the Melbaki bike park, just because it's going to be a pretty cool area, and the pump tracks are kind of geared towards BMX, which was kind of Melbaki's thing. So I'm thinking of moving that sign that's currently at Lowell Park over to that and making that the new bike park.
It won't be in a wetland either.
And it won't be in a wetland, right? That's a win. Yeah. Any questions on Teenasic? Yeah. Moving along, so up next are the carry forward requests. So if you were here last year, you probably heard a lot of this stuff already. I pretty much just copy a lot of stuff that Director Glenn had done in the past because a lot of it's the same. So phase 1 and 2 of the River Park, this has been a CIP request now for 2 years. DNR permitting is definitely taking longer than I think anybody anticipated. And so it won't be under construction this fall and winter. So again, here we are again. And then Director Ellinger, so you mentioned in the past with this, and just for clarity for everyone, we have not borrowed for this, correct?
For which park?
For the River Park, for the Whitewater Park.
We have not yet.
Correct.
It was originally in the 25 budget, the 24 budget to borrow for it. And before we got too far into the debt issue, it was determined it's not going to happen this year. So we have not borrowed for it in 24.
Yep.
So if we are doing it in 25, we would be borrowing for it.
Okay. And that's the hard part is we don't know yet. We have some upcoming meetings with the DNR. Hopefully things get resolved soon. But based on past history, I can't give any guarantees, so.
We've essentially asked them for a judgment, though.
Correct.
To just say yea or nay, and then we know if we need to, how we need to proceed after that. Right now, we're getting pretty much a non-answer.
All right. And if you go to the next slide, I can kind of show you what we're.
So we scheduled a meeting with the DNR. We were able to herd the cats, so we have a meeting with them in September. That meeting was just scheduled today. So it's taken a month we're a month out, and we've been trying to schedule this meeting now for over 3 weeks. They have a new secretary for this region. So we've been working with our legislators and our attorneys to get this scheduled. So we feel like we're going to have everybody there. So we'll give you an update when we come out of that meeting.
Yep. And then, just kind of for clarity on this map, the in blue is that would be what we would be doing in 2025, as would the portions in red. Those are actually part of upcoming the Phase 1B for Map Park. So we are planning on doing that as well. I believe I have well, actually that'll come up next. So
that light blue, that's the underpass.
Yeah.
That's we had a public hearing on already. It was essentially approved, and then they pulled it back. So that's where we're looking for a judgment on to move forward with that.
Yeah. Next slide, or any questions?
Just real quick, I want to add to that also fills in the head race and tail race. If you remember, about a month ago, there was a fish kill in the Ohio River, and a lot of those fish ended up in that stagnant head race. So that would help to eliminate some of those types of things. Not the fish kill, but the harboring of stagnant, nasty, whatever ends up there. It also coincides with some stuff that we'll talk about later with the powerhouse.
Yeah, and you can see, if you go down now, you can see the blue-green algae in the tail side in that stagnant area to the north on the tail side of the dam right now. So. Yeah,
and then part of this is being offset by grant dollars.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the DNR has been pretty generous with
yes.
us on extending deadlines to use those grant dollars. Typically have 2 years.
There's about $1 million on the line for that.
Yep. So. Yep. And if you go to the next slide, I can show you some of that. So for the part of the trail underpass money here, so you have the construction of 2.8. You have a stewardship grant of 240, and then it's kind of shows the city's responsibility there. There's another grant that's kind of involved in the overall project for almost $1 million. So we have a number of grants kind of on the line, but yes, like Mayor Swadley said, they have been generous with extending our timeline on that because I believe some of them we were awarded in as far back as 2022. Next.
Because this is my first in this meeting, so my question is really about the carryover. Yeah. We don't get any positive credit for not asking debt in the amount of $3 million $3.5 million in the last year. It's just like, great, we didn't have to pull $3.5 million. Next year, we're gonna have to do it. Like, there's no positive benefit to this at all. It's all negative, thanks.
Well, yeah, especially when the cost goes up the next year.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's part of the conversation we're having with the DNR, is we need to get to a decision point because, you know, literally every day, the price of doing business goes up on these types of projects.
And it's if we have to consider the amount that we're borrowing every year, we're sacrificing other departments' needs by pushing this forward. So that's what bothers me most. And so I don't know, there's no positives to this at all?
No, we would have wanted 2 years ago to get it done.
We could have had a bridge in by now.
Yeah, we could have had a bridge, that's right. Would have been great.
Yeah, so also with the river park, so this is some of the other portions of the river park as well. So this would be going into that purple section. So that would be 2025, again, this is all being moved again, but 2025, 1.215, 2026, 1.215, and then you'll see the grants. These are kind of the larger grants that we have. So that Land Water Conservation Fund grant, they've already awarded us 50% of that up front, so we can now send them invoices and get those reimbursed at this point. And then after a certain point on the construction, they would award us the other half of that. So we have that one, and then you can see it's oh, go ahead.
Sorry, I just, to your point, DJ, I wonder if, because this is the dam modification portion, just my opinion is that's probably not going to get constructed in 2025. There still has to be public hearings because of a water level change order that would have to be done. I think that could get strung out a little bit. So I would think and recommend that you put that to a later year for those exact reasons that you brought up, Alder Payton. So that's just my 2 cents on that one. I just don't see it happening in 25.
And there will also be from what we've been told, there'll be a required wildlife study as well, which can potentially be a full year study. Just a heads up on it. Yay, good news.
So then that's the reason why we're doing the phasing of the project as well. That underpass, that light blue, doing that first. Right now we're doing the Man Park improvements in 24 and 25 to really get those amenities in that we can along the river that can stand alone. So even if the whitewater portion gets caught up in litigation for years, these other amenities are still in and still being able to be used until such time as the other portions can be put in.
What are the reflective lines on the CIP or what lines on the CIP spreadsheet reflect the comments that Director Hebert just made about the dam? Like, is that the last slide on the river park that was the $1.2 million and the grants, or?
Let me pull it up here.
On the 4th page? So you're talking the river park one? This one? So it's on that slide that shows right now? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was it.
Google Slides doesn't like me moving lines to be next to each other to make it more sense to you all.
No, that's
Apologies.
okay. That's okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood if Director Aber is saying it should be pushed back, it could be pushed back, I want to know what amount and what item I'm considering.
To carve those things out.
Right.
I think even, for clarity in the future, maybe we can do is put those amounts on the map, in the light blue. This is what this item is going to cost. Even for our clarity, because
well,
to be
hopefully
honest,
it won't be a question in the future, so we don't even have to worry about it. But I was just making sure I knew. So it's the 1.2 line?
Yes.
Okay.
I believe so.
Yeah, I got it.
Yep. The 1.2 line at the top of page 4, and then
Got it.
at the bottom of that section, the 4.9.
Okay.
Or 0.4, whatever,
Gotcha.
490,000.
Yeah, it starts getting closer, yeah. Mm-hmm. Great, that's really good context.
Yeah, so mill pond remediation and restoration, we have this permit. This has been approved. But we can't do anything until the other part happens. So this just kind of shows the estimated cost and the grant we have for it. But again, we have the permit. This one's ready to go, but we have to do the other portions first of the project. So this one I have it in, again, I have it in 2025, but as Director Aber said, this is one that probably too.
I think that should
probably move that
follow
down.
that 1.2, wherever that goes, this
Wherever
one
that goes, yep.
Well, and there's also the unknown cost of the additional testing we're doing in the river as well, right?
So, by the RDA site?
Yeah.
So that's a whole different animal.
Right.
So, and Director Ellinger has monies available to do that or set aside for
We do
that.
for the testing, but at this
testing.
point, we don't know if there's gonna be any remediation.
Yeah, there could be nothing, or there could be millions,
Yeah.
we don't know.
And
at
that
this
sounds
point.
like a library project to me, actually.
For everybody's information, we don't have money set aside for that. When the remediation goes forward, we're going to request the state trust fund loan because you can get cash pretty quick on that one and go forward.
You had a method to fund it, how about that?
All right, so next slide, I just have design and engineering for 2025. That's the other thing is that, this engineering costs have not stopped. It continues with all of these meetings with the DNR, and this money is, I will say that this adds up quickly. So for 2025, we're, after speaking with engineers, expecting another 150,000. You can kind of see the requirements that are coming up. And kind of regardless of if we get to that purple section, I'm guessing it would still be around this cost for engineering, just because that seems to be what it's kind of been each year, unfortunately.
And that's all the more reason to keep on working with the DNR to get this to the finish line, because these costs are growing for the entire project every year. So it's not even engineering costs, it's also legal fees. Our staff time, which isn't reflected in there, but our time, our opportunity costs that we could be doing something else is real. So it's time to get this one put to bed.
Yeah. All right, so Phase 1B, Mant Park Master Plan. So this one, these improvements include removing the roadway parallel to the river, naturalization of the shoreline, river access, parking, and a shelter/restroom. So we have begun, we can go to the next slide. We have begun on Phase 1A, which is, I know it's hard to see, but it's in the red dashed area. So that part has begun. And then the Phase 1B, which is is in that purple-pink dashed area. So that is slated to get portions to get started in spring and then continue after the fair. So, yeah, again, that's kind of the main one is taking out that riverfront road and then putting in that parking lot. Those are kind of the main portions of this, so.
And also those nodes along the river and the walking trail. And like Tony mentioned, the big one is the parking lot, and then the grading of the turf area. Also, the stormwater component will be going in at that time in the parking lot. So in the middle of the parking lot, that's where the stormwater basins are essentially, and the treatment. So that's kind of a neat deal that's going in there. Plus a shelter that we at Alderman Mayeski, that's the one I was talking about. That's a prefab, but I don't want it to sound like it's a piece of junk, 'cause it's not. It's really a design build. It's just built in a factory, and then they ship it, of course, and then they crane it in. So it's a nice one. They're not inexpensive, but I think you could do there's some opportunity costs when it comes to the design build type stuff versus having the engineer design it and then contracting out for the build on site.
Next, any questions on this before I go to the next slide? It's still continuing this discussion, but so here you can kind of see the engineering cost and construction cost. In addition, hoping to carry over any remaining money from Phase 1A because we will not, I'm guessing we won't be completed with Phase 1A until probably the spring of next year. Looking to carry that over, and then you can see kind of some grants that we are tentatively awarded right now, and a lot of that has to do with our kind of a floodplain discussion we're in right now along the shoreline. So hoping to have that permitted soon and good to go.
I just had a question. So what we're seeing in the spreadsheet at the 1.5, that's presuming the grant is
Correct.
awarded, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep,
Thanks.
and these are tentatively awarded. It's stuck also in DNR permitting.
It's a theme.
And that is it, so not even that much stuff. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Director Abear will be walking us through the street projects.
Sure. That's under global
Yeah.
and then CIP.
Maybe, actually, I think it might be in the packet.
Okay. Do I go to shared? Do you want to overlook?
Yeah.
You can just take this.
Beautiful colors on this presentation.
It's very fitting,
So
isn't it?
representative.
I'm gonna log into me. Just bear with me for 1 second. I'm gonna log into my computer so I can actually see the screen. I'll go fast if it's up to you guys how fast I can go.
Sorry.
Just navigating the Google. All right. Should I wait for Alder Maskey or should I start or? Oh. All right, so this presentation is about street construction, public works equipment, And then eventually we'll be talking about the municipal facility capital projects, which are now under Public Works. So the first thing is our road construction projects that we have on the docket for this year. I just wanted to give an update on how we select our roadways. And one of those ways is to use our PACER rating. So every 2 years, we have to rate our roadways, 1 through 10, 10 being pretty much a brand new road, 1 being a failed road. This system was set up actually by the University of Wisconsin and is used across the country. So it's a pretty good way of rating our roads to see where we have deficiencies and where our roads are in good shape. We have these all tracked in our GIS as well. We also look at the type of roadway. Is it a residential roadway or a collector or more of our arterial type roadway? Along with that comes traffic volumes, planned underground utility work. We do collaborate every year with Stoughton Utilities. We spend hours together to make sure that we're going through these projects in step. So we have a really pretty good plan. We actually have plans out into the 2030s with them for projects. Only the 2025 through 2029 that is the ones that you'll see. DOT planned work. So we have quite a few DOT projects coming up in 25, 6, and most likely 27. So we need to plan for those and work with those folks and plan around those projects. So here's the PACER rating like I talked about. So 1 through 10, 10 being excellent, 1 being failed, and everywhere in between. We have all these tracked in our GIS software. Gives you kind of a nice depiction of where you have some deficiencies. Green is good, red is bad, so to speak. So we use this as a tool as we start to put our roads together. It's a good visual for us as staff to look at where we need to be spending most of our time and effort.
Are the roads ranked 0, have those gone completely feral? Is that what?
Yeah, we just get rid. We don't even pay attention to those anymore. Yeah, we don't have any zeros, so 0 would probably be a road that's turned to gravel. So we have a few that are touching the 2s that we have programmed. I will say I think we've made pretty good headway. Thanks to the council for investing back into the roadways. I think we've made some good headway on a lot of our collector style roads, and then getting some of the roads that need attention in the residential areas back where they need to be. And I hope we can continue that going forward. I think we're making really good progress. Along with that, and Dave mentioned the GTA, the General Transportation Aids. Basically, the more that we do, the more we spend on our infrastructure, the more we get back. It's a 6-year rolling average. So he was talking about the Public Works facility, which actually counts towards that, will be coming off after the 2025 year. So that was a big price tag, obviously. So I think it was about 116,000 or something like that will be coming off that GTA. However, we're still projected in 2025 with connecting highway aids and general transportation aids to have a revenue of about $1.35 million, which is pretty good. Just kind of shows the history on that. So back in 2015, essentially we're taking in just shy of $600,000 in general transportation aids and connecting highway aids. Now like I said, we're at that almost $1.36 million. So that just goes to show the investment that you guys have made is starting to pay dividends back to us that we can reinvest into the community. So different types of work that we do on our roadways. Mill and overlays, we don't use this a whole lot. A mill and overlay is really where you take the top 2 inches off or 1.75 inches off the top and then put a new mat back down. You'll see a lot of reflective cracking with this type of a treatment. So we prefer to do the pulverization, which is on the next slide. So we do a full depth pulverization. So we go just into the base, just 1 inch or 2, then grind up the entire 4 inches of asphalt. And then we have the opportunity to reshape that road, do what we call proof rolling, so looking for soft spots in the roadway, and then undercutting if need be, so replacing that soft spot with new base material, and then putting a new 4 inches or 5 or 6, whatever the road may dictate, of asphalt back on. And then there's road reconstructions. These are the ones that are more invasive. So this is all new curb and gutter, all new sidewalk, most likely all new underground utilities. So water, sewer, storm sewer, could be potentially some electric. So these are very invasive. Right now we have east, south, 4th Street, and west, south that are full reconstructs. So those are the ones that we partner with Stoughton Utilities on and plan for well in advance. So these are very invasive. However, we're looking for longevity in these roads, so all new base material, so that in 20, 30 years, when we come back to these, we could potentially do just a mill and overlay because the base material is in good shape. Next slide. So 2025 projects, I gotta catch up myself. So we have listed out here, and on the map and on your screen in your packet. So 4th Street from Milwaukee to Isham, Wilson from Van Buren to Lincoln, Lincoln Highway B to Creedeman, including Marie, that's Lincoln, that dead end, that's just a little short stub. Then Van Buren, basically from Gregg Trail to Roby, there's 2 sections there. And then Roosevelt, Riverview to Van Buren, Eisenhower, Lincoln to Van Buren, those are short streets. Then Main Page Court, and that coincides with the bridge on Jefferson Street that we're talking about. So when we redo that bridge, we're going to redo the asphalt down Main Page Court. And then Hard Pipe of Swale in just off of Industrial Circle. And then we'll also add a new asphalt trail and move that away from the property line through that corridor that connects to the Ohio River Trail. Also Rotary Park Pond, we're looking to rehab that. If you've been to music on Thursday nights at Gazebo Musique, you'll see that pond needs some help. So we're going to be bringing that back to its former glory, adding safety shelves and making it current. And then the DOT projects, so from 5th Street to Spring Road will be happening in 2025. That's a DOT project. However, we do have some components in there that are in the CIP. Most of that is for lighting and some sidewalk type improvements. So let's quickly step through these. 4th Street from Milwaukee to Isham. So this is not the current project this year is from Main Street to the bridge. So this is another section from Milwaukee to Isham. And we actually got awarded 60% funding for this project through the bipartisan infrastructure law back in 2021. And so the federal government is basically paying for 60% of this roadway. This has been in design with them since 2021. So we are almost to 90% design with that. All the studies are complete. All the public meetings have happened. So we're ready to, I think they're going to let that in basically November.
You think South Page will be punched through by then?
As far as?
Yeah, to Acker.
Oh, to Acker?
Yeah.
I think so. I know that they have preliminary designs out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're very interested.
Yeah.
They do have preliminary designs out there that are with our city engineer to vet and to go through. There's some stormwater considerations that we're making them do to have some basically overland flood control. So if the underground storm sewer fails, it can flow overland and not impact property. So that's the biggest design challenge that they have to overcome. They have to, or else we won't let them do it. But I think you'll see some things happening there in 2025.
I mean, that would help with the traffic.
Yeah, I think so too. And I would strongly recommend we keep this one in 2025 because of the 60% funding component. So right now in the CIP is the full amount, but 60% of that is funded by the DOT. I should say by the federal government through the DOT. I will say with this one too is that there's a 8-foot multi-use path that'll be along the west side of 4th Street that will connect to Magnolia Springs and go down and connect to Mant Park. Again, talking about that connectivity, having these trails actually go somewhere. So that will be happening as part of this project. Wilson Street, this is a short one block section that, in my opinion, should have been done with Wilson back in 2016. However, we're going to do that this year. This is a PACER rating of 2. So basically, this is from Lincoln to Van Buren. Again, just one block near the high school. So this is very, it's a heavily traveled area. So we would pulverize this, spot curb and gutter replacement, and spot sidewalk replacement. You can just see on the picture, there's deteriorating pavement. It's pretty bad. Lincoln to, I'm sorry.
Hey, Alan.
Yeah.
Along with this section, I mean, once the school finishes up their construction work in there, is that going to, because that being a maintenance building and they'll have different trucks and things going through there, is there a different consideration for the base material of this road, or?
Yeah, good point. So we'd have the opportunity to correct any base issues and make it appropriate for the turning movement of trucks. And just, there's a lot of traffic on that road to begin with, because it's a main thoroughfare to the high school. So all that will be taken into consideration. And the engineers, when they look at the pavement design, they look at all that and the mixes that they approve. So yes, all that is taken into consideration.
Then one for, I guess this would be on public safety's route. I had some neighbors that live over in that area asking me about, they said some of the signage is outdated and whether that's going to get updated as far as when the usage of the building, because it still references school days on there. So there isn't a school there any longer. There's no building related to that. So the high school is, yes, but on
Yeah, we probably have to
Not
look at
Wilson,
our
but on-
ordinances,
Are those all parking restrictions?
probably.
yeah, they're on the it's the other
School
one. I can't remember,
crossings.
the minor street next to it.
Yeah.
That goes like by adjacent to the baseball diamond there.
Oh, okay. So farther down on.
Yeah, I think there was some in there that referenced like 2 hour only from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. or something
Gotcha.
like that.
Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. So Lincoln from Highway B to Eisenhower. This is another great project near another school. This year we're actually doing Gregg Trail in preparation for this project. We added some storm sewer in to relieve some underground water pressure in the intersection of Lincoln and Gregg Trail. So again, this is another good project that I would strongly recommend we try to keep. Poor pavement quality. This is that intersection I was talking about. There's some deficiencies in some of the sidewalks. This being in the school zone, I think this is a priority. And then, just the crown of the road really isn't where it needs to be. So we'd like to see about a 1.5% to 2% crown. It's not quite there. And that helps to shed the water off the roadway and create some longevity in the asphalt. Van Buren.
Real quick, one other note just for, I'm just thinking about this because it's most present from this week. The polling location is also something for District 4 at the church, so I don't know if that's something that while we're doing this, if somehow it continues on during an election, it just might be worth noting.
Yeah,
I don't know if there's going to be anything next.
2025, is there primaries or
No.
It'll be a local in April, but you probably wouldn't start this till after the school year, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
correct. So this one will be in June. So
Great.
And great
Good
point.
timing for that.
So yeah, right. So this one would be June to like the third week in August. That's going to be their time frame. So June 10th or whenever they get out in 2025, or that may be, that would be their notice to proceed. Yeah, so this one will be a pretty quick turnaround just because of the bookends of the end of school and the beginning of the next school year. Van Buren, so basically another block over, and we would stagger these and kind of work through these as they're adjacent to each other, and recognizing that they are main thoroughfares for this neighborhood. So we would do this in concert together. We actually moved this one up because this one is rapidly deteriorating, and we feel that we needed to do something quickly. We swapped this one out with Creedeman, which was in the same area, but we felt this one was worse than Creedeman at this point, and could be swapped with your approval. So again, just poor pavement quality. It's a main north-south arterial road, significant roadway deterioration, and it is a 3 and declining. Pictures, some of these don't do it justice. If you've driven on it, it's rough. Then Roosevelt and Eisenhower, adjacent to Van Buren. We're looking at doing a pulverization project here as well. And I have these in the orange because these are ones that we'll do. We'll do all these with our pulverizer. However, these will be more GC'd by us. These smaller 1-block sections will be GC'd by us. So basically, we'll be controlling the project and not having to pay somebody else to do it. So those will be happening. We're putting valley gutters in along Van Buren at these intersections to carry the water on concrete versus asphalt. There's some, there's a grade here, and it's deteriorating the intersections pretty badly. So we'll put some valley gutters in here. Also, Roosevelt and Eisenhower, there's a picture on the top left there. Basically, the road appears like it's sunk. What actually happened is the curb and gutter has tipped backwards because of poor base material. That's why that front, you see a lip there. We thought the whole road may have sunk, but after further investigation, it's actually the curb and gutter that's tilted backwards ever so slightly, but has been exacerbated towards the roadway and created that lip. So it's not great when you're snow blowing or plowing or anything like that. Also, the pavement quality is deteriorating pretty badly because the water gets trapped there along the curb line instead of going to the gutter pan. It's now in the roadway. So we feel as we do Van Buren, this is the time to do those 2 streets. Main Page Court, I kind of alluded to this earlier. We'd like to do this one along with the Jefferson Street Bridge project and basically just get this whole area fixed up and where it needs to be. The pavement quality, if you go to the next slide, is terrible. There's exactly, so that's that like 0.5 to 1 the Pacer rating. So if there ever was a 0, this might be the closest thing to it. It's time. Again, we've been, I'd say, dragging our feet on this one because of the Jefferson Street Bridge. We were going to do this regardless of the bridge happening because it's that bad. It needs to happen. We have some partners down there, I would call it, and we're in constant communication with them. And they've expressed their desire to have this done as well. And so we're on the same page as them when it comes to doing the pun intended to do this project. Also looking at some safety enhancements as you go out onto Main Street. I wish I had a picture of it. I should have put a picture of it. As you come out onto Main Street, the buildings are pretty tight, and it's tough to see pedestrians coming into the. Yeah, there's a mirror, and actually the mirror does work. So we've talked about some potential lights and things, and we want to have something that is going to work during all conditions, and that's something that's trustworthy. So the mirror, to be honest, has served its purpose. It may be the solution long term, but we're going to look into some other solutions as well. We had a discussion with them, the residents down there. Geez, had to be 4 or 5 years ago, and some of these things were brought up then. So the East Main project, this is a DOT let project. So from Fifth Street all the way to Spring Road, essentially the connecting highway, or what we're in control of, is Fifth Street to Chalet, and then Chalet to Spring Road is not under our maintenance responsibility, other than the street sweeping of curb and gutter and the lane markings and the removal of snow on the sidewalk from N to Racetrack Road. So those are our responsibilities. Because way back when they added the sidewalk in the township, that was part of the agreement, is that, yes, you can put sidewalk in the township, however, our residents are not going to shovel it, so if you want to put it there, you have to maintain it and take care of the snow, which we do. So along this corridor, there's going to be many enhancements to pedestrian safety. There's also going to be a bike lane. This will be no parking. Larger terraces, which means we can put some larger, more climax trees in, which we intend to do. Unfortunately, all the trees will be removed from this corridor, and new trees will be put in. I think we have an opportunity, however, to put a different species of tree in that's more appropriate for that area. And we can put some larger trees in specific areas. I know way back when there was some large elm trees throughout there, and it had that nice cathedral look. With the high lines, it'd be tough to.
Actually, they didn't, they were just getting big.
Yeah, that's.
So, that brings up my question. So, why are we taking the trees out?
The terraces are moving. So, and right now, most of the trees through that corridor are the crabapple variety. In the right spot, they're fine. I think we have an opportunity again on the DOT's dime to put a better species of tree back in there.
I have no problem with that.
So, yeah, but great leading question. I appreciate that. So I think obviously these trees aren't going to reach climax for quite some time. However, it's an opportunity to put the right tree in the right location. We are in coordination with the.
Are you also changing street lighting?
Yes. So there'll be upgrades to the street lighting. There'll be black powder-coated poles going into along the 51 corridor, and that'll be consistent all the way through as we do the different phases of 51. Just so you guys know, so this is the first phase, if you will, through Stoughton. The next phase is in 2026, is from Harrison through the roundabouts to essentially B and beyond. And then in 2029, advanceable to 2027 is from 5th to Harrison. That's the downtown corridor. So if you're keeping track, that's 25, 26, and potentially 27. That Highway 51 will be under construction. We have reached out to our partners downtown. We actually this Monday, we have our first meeting with the downtown merchants, and there's like 70 people invited. Every third Monday of the month, we're going to meet with those folks until potentially 2027, and work with them on how we can keep traffic coming to the downtown safely. Also looking at some enhancements. So I just wanted you guys to know that we are working with our partners down there, because that's important to get traffic down there efficiently but safely, staying out of the traffic area. Another main component is the hospital, working with those folks to get people to the hospital, working with them on educating their patients to get them to the hospital. So we do have a local detour route that is going to be set up. We'll mark that as best we can. People also got to follow it. They're going to do what they want to do. However, we're going to try to mark it as best we can to keep traffic flowing. That was another impetus to get east-south done, because that is part of the detour route to get downtown. That'll be complete actually in 2 weeks. East-south will be blacktopped, if you're wondering what's going on with that one. So, yeah, a lot of good things happening. A lot of construction on the docket. So we're just trying to manage it the best we can and work with our partners in the community. Here's just some pictures from East Main. I do have a picture of the wall up near the fire department near 5th Street. That's going to be redone at the DOT's cost. It'll be a nice kind of stamped wall that'll look aesthetically pleasing. So that'll be redone with this project on their dime. The asphalt overlay project, again, this is projects that we GC, and it allows us to do more work with less funds, essentially. So we do have a pulverizer that we use, and we go down to the base material. We take our in-house staff, and we do all the work in-house. So this year, we're looking at doing Christensen Way and Melham. Got a picture in the next slide. So essentially, it is in rough shape, much like Eisenhower and Roosevelt. It's the same vintage, I think, in that area. And the curb is, again, potentially tipped back or just, we did a core and there's 3 inches of asphalt. Our typical spec is 4 inches. I think that's part of the issue. So we'll go in and redo all the base if need be, do our proof rolls, reshape the street, get our 1.5% to 2%, and then correct any curb and gutter issues and then sidewalk issues. Industrial Circle swale project. So this one's off Industrial Circle. However, it's that small trail corridor that goes into the Ahar River Trail area. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? And so as you go down that trail, which was bumpy, I think we made some corrections from the roots that were through there. So we're going to actually hard pipe the rest of that swale because it is sloughing off into the swale area and creating some issues when it comes to stormwater flow. So we're going to be hard piping that and then covering it. And then that gives us the opportunity to move the trail section away from the property line. That's to the west property line. We can move that east a couple feet off the property line. That trail is in bad shape. The trees have wreaked havoc. This will also give us an opportunity to look at the trees and potentially plant some different species in this area and create a nice corridor leading into the Ahar River Trail area. Rotary Pond, like we talked about, this one needs to be rehabbed. Over time, silt has really built in. We actually tried to get a contractor in here to manage the cattails. They didn't get the permit in time last year, which was disappointing because we let them know in August we'd like them to move forward. They didn't get it in time, and I think it's October 1st. After that date, you can't treat cattails. So we looked at the pond. There's actually a study ongoing right now with our stormwater system, and this is one that's deficient, essentially. So we're looking at rehabbing this pond. Jefferson Street parking lot. You may not see this on your screen. This is one I added with David's mentioning he wanted us to add $200,000 and asked if there's any projects out there, and well, throw a dart. So we did have one in 2026 that we were looking to move up. That's the Jefferson Street parking lot. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with that or ever tried to park there with the gazebo musique, but it is in disrepair. It's got some major base issues. It's got some stormwater issues going into private property. So we'd like to get that one fixed up this next year.
That work around catfish days?
Yeah, we'd work around all that type of stuff. Yep. So there'd be either after that or if we can start early enough to get that done before that.
Question?
Yeah.
Will you be, will this redo require you to update this parking lot to the standards for the ordinances where we are putting in trees and islands?
We'd have to follow all of our current standards. So we have to look at how big it is, how many spaces we have to have, handicap parking. It would be made current, yes.
Okay.
Just a comment for our history buff over there. That's the location of the first Lutheran church. First Lutheran church.
Not the second first Lutheran
Not
church.
the second, but the first.
Or the third, but the first.
Which burned down in 1940 something or other. Doesn't matter.
Does Brett consult you for his facts?
What?
So yeah, we're at 9 o'clock, so I gotta get going here. So the sidewalk replacement program, I think we're gonna get some traction with this. I feel like it's been stalled out the last couple of years. However, our engineering tech that we have under our umbrella, she's gonna be this is gonna be her priority. And she's already set up basically areas of the city. I think we have 5 different sections of the city, and we want to tackle each one of these sections with the funds that we have and correct any deficiencies. And now that the council approved no assessments for sidewalks, we can actually go in and make some drastic improvements more quickly. So as they come up, a lot of these are complaint driven in different areas all over town. So we want to take the majority of this money and focus on one section and get everything taken care of that's deficient, and then have a little bit left over for those that come in that we can't put cold patch in or whatever, that just need to be fixed. So I think you'll find that you'll see a lot better program that's in place. She's already started putting that together and getting quantities put together so that we can bid these types of things out. We have spreadsheets of areas to tackle and quantities to put together that we look forward to really implementing this next year. And I think you'll also find as we learn more that price can fluctuate. I think we've been throwing 100,000 at it for quite some time. Again, we got to assess the need better, and she's doing that. And that means boots on the ground and actually going and inspecting these areas, walking them up and down. So I think you'll see we'll have a much better program going forward. The roadway preventive maintenance, so this is mostly crack filling and then using our pothole patcher and our emulsion. So this is a critical thing that we do to prolong the life of our roadways, our asphalt roadways. So essentially we fill all the cracks that develop over time. That prevents water from going down into the base and essentially ruining the base, which that deteriorates the asphalt quicker. So we have a pretty robust program, and it's actually, I think, paying dividends. Some of the roads that were put in 2015, 16 still look really good. So we're looking to continue that program going forward. Equipment replacement. So I have to apologize. I'm going to get this to you. I didn't have the scores in here, but I will send those to you. So we do have a scoring system for each vehicle. And basically here it's on your screen. And I will send this out to the group. I got it, Bryce. I'll get with him tomorrow. We'll put that together. I do apologize for that because that is one tool that we do use and shows you guys the need for replacement. So truck number 1, which is a 1998 Chevy 3500. This has reached the end of its useful life for the second time for us. So this was a repurposed vehicle from the fire department. So we're looking to replace this with an F-150. And these right now on the state contract are running around $48,000 to meet our needs. These are our contractor grade pickup trucks with a long box on it. We're looking to add another F-150. Essentially, the streets department has been less one truck for 10 years. So the Forester basically commandeered that truck, and we separated the Forester from the streets department 4 or 5 years ago. We actually made him the Forester. Maybe 6 years ago now. So at that time, we had to outfit him, and so we gave him a truck and put his tools on that. So essentially, we robbed a truck from the streets department. So we're looking at adding that back in this next year. Leaf Vac number 41. So this is part of our Leaf Vac program. This was actually approved a couple years ago when we had some chassis issues to place POs. I think it was in 2022. Essentially, we couldn't get chassis, and they were at that time like 4 years out. So we actually placed the PO for this at that time during the 5-year capital improvement program. So this truck's already been ordered. It was approved back then, and this program to order these types of trucks was talked about. We've actually, these trucks are starting to come in on time because of doing that. Because we ordered the chassis early and forecast out when they're going to be coming in or when they're due for replacement. This one was 2025, so we ordered that in 2022, and it is on track to come in on time. This would be a stormwater budget item. Patrol truck number 14, essentially these ones, the current ones in the fleet have a 15-year lifespan on them, and the new ones that we get in have a 20-year lifespan just because how we order them and different stainless steel components that we have. I think that we take care of them better. Not to say they didn't before. I think we have the ability to take care of them better with our facility. So we're looking at keeping these trucks for 20 years. The cost of these trucks, just like anything else, any other rolling stock, has grown over time. And so these are costing us about $225,000 now. I think I got $20,000 in there as a trade-in value. I think we can get that all day. I think it could be closer to 30 even at auction. Wide area mower, and I specifically put a John Deere in here. Currently we have Toro. I'll just tell you we're not happy with the Toro that we have in the service. Essentially, we've been down a mower for 6 weeks now in the height of our mowing season and have been having to scramble to get things done, especially with the rainy days and things. It's been a challenge, and the reason is they've had it at their shop because there's a code that came up, and they have proprietary software that they won't allow us to work on that equipment in our own shop that we're set up to do. So we are not going with Toro on these pieces of equipment because we cannot have equipment down for 6 weeks when this is their time to shine. So we've found an equivalent in the John Deere, and this is the direction we'd like to go with this unit. And we've talked to them about the software and the diagnostics and all of that stuff. There's actually litigation that allows us to have that software and to work on these types of units. So this is the direction we'd like to go with the John Deere. Also, they're cheaper. Not how they're made, but just it's a diesel turbo. It's a good unit. It's $20,000 cheaper than the Toro. So for that reason alone, I think we should look at moving in that direction, and we can work on them in-house. We're looking at getting a used person lift. So facility maintenance is under Public Works now, and we've had some issues where we need to get up and change filters or change lights in some of these areas, our building being one of them. So this came from Tracy, then also in collaboration with Fleet and Fire and EMS and other departments, that we can definitely use a lift in our city fleet. So not just Public Works, but the city's fleet to utilize. And so we're looking at finding a used lift. We don't need a brand new one to the tune of $100,000, but we're looking at a nice used lift to bring into our fleet. Yes, we can rent them. It's about $800 or $800 to $1,000, I think, is what we had been paying for a lift that we on wheels, kind of like this. The scissors lifts you can get a little bit cheaper. However, you can't use those in the turf areas. So this one's a little more versatile that we can use in the parks, that we can put on our trailers. We've been looking at different weights. So we feel like we can put this to use, and it would be money well spent. Not alone the safety component of having a lift like this and not using 30-foot ladder. I'd rather have our guys in a lift that's secure.
Are you ever going to budget for a cement truck with all the sidewalks and park pads and?
Yeah, oh boy, and a paver. Yeah, the list goes. We need more people though. So yeah, it's a good point too, because contractors, especially concrete contractors, are becoming very tough to get on the hook. Supply and demand is an issue, and cost is an issue. Obviously, they want to do bigger projects, like our road projects. We're still getting decent prices on those, but some of the pads and things like that, I think we have to do more in-house type work to make it more efficient, cost efficient, and timely. So that has been an issue, to be honest, to find contractors to do this type of work.
Maybe
But that's all
one
part of the
for
equation.
cost benefit analysis on that one,
Yeah,
at least just for an idea.
yeah, okay. Other items, so this is a continuation of our city welcome sign program. So on East Main, we put a sign in this last year. I think it looks pretty nice. It looks nice lit up. So we're looking at putting the second one in near the substation on 138, near the roundabout by Walmart. So we've been in discussions already with Stoughton Utilities about easements, because they own that land, and yeah, the sirens, that's a whole nother discussion, but yeah, so we're looking at putting the sign there. I think that's an appropriate location. Again, the west to east gateway to the city. So putting that sign in there, and looking at vision triangles with that brush in there, and controlling that property. So I think they're a nice addition to the community coming in, and it really dresses up Stoughton.
That can have an electronic issue? Signage?
It doesn't. So we went through the budget process. That was one thing that got cut. I would love to have the digital component. I would still love to have a digital component near the fire station, kind of where we put our signboards to advertise a lot. So I'd love to put something there eventually.
Refresh my memory, what was the difference in cost between this, what you're proposing, and with the electronic signboard?
It's about a $30,000 enhancement for the electronic component. So instead of about 35, and that 35 is accounting for some electrical service and some property acquisition. So it's around 28,000 for the sign, and then if you want to put a digital component on there, it's another $25,000-$30,000.
One more, right? Facilities.
I have a couple of,
Oh,
I just have a question about the vehicles, sorry.
Yep.
Just how it's noted on the spreadsheet, I just want to make sure I'm clear. The 1998 Chevy is noted under Parks vehicles. Now, I know Parks is under Public Works, so I just want is it just to allocate it a little differently? Because I don't want another Forester situation happening if that, like,
So that's, so it's part of, it's in our presentation, I guess, because it's part of the entire city's fleet. But that one is dedicated to the parks. So that's the 98.
So it's not a streets.
That's the 98. That's the replacement for the 98. The addition to the fleet is that one goes to streets.
Yeah. Okay. So one will be streets and one is parks.
Yes, correct.
Okay. Maybe I misunderstood that from the presentation.
Two F-150s.
And then I guess the second question I have about the trucks, does it make sense purchasing them at the same time even though there's need, or does it make sense to stagger them so that they're not, being paid for again in, another 5-10 years or however long, not both at the same time?
Yep, I get what you're saying. We have 170 pieces of equipment, so every year we're going to have 4 or 5 pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing too, is that we individually take a look at these trucks. So let's say we do have 2 F-150s that we buy this year, and 15 years later when they're due for replacement, we may say, you know what, this one we can hang on to for a couple more years, but this one has to go just because of how it was used over the course of that 15 years.
Yeah.
Maybe the parks used it for, to get seasonals to parks, and the other truck was used to haul concrete. We're gonna have concrete people. So, it could be used differently, and we may say, hey, we can prolong the life of this long. So we don't just say, hey, at 15 years, this is gotta go.
Of course.
So there's a chance it could be, one's staggered just because of that.
Yeah, and it's never a great time to add something into the fleet, so.
Yeah, and we look at that very carefully about adding equipment, because again, you usually don't take that away. So that's always in the fleet and carried forward.
And then my last one is the mower. It's noted on the spreadsheet because it's a replacement at 74. In the presentation you had, it was 72, but the others also included the trade-in value in terms of the deduction of price for that. So I just was curious if that's an accurate reflection.
We'll work with finance on that because we actually just got some pricing updates. I updated on my what I'm looking at, but you guys didn't see it yet. So they'll be seeing that.
Okay.
That'll be reflected in subsequent version 4, I assume.
Okay, great.
So we very swiftly, I would say, we got very angry about the Toro situation, and because we were, we had Toro equipment, and this was the first time I think that we were really truly handcuffed where we couldn't work on our own equipment, and it put us in a huge bind, and we were fed up with that, and we feel that it's not right. I don't think it's legal, to be honest, to not allow us to have that software, talking with John Deere. So we'd like to move in that direction with the John Deere.
Yeah, that sounds fine. I just wanted to make sure that spreadsheet, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, and Brett, I feel like on the trucks, we may be asked by some alders about fuel options.
Yeah, great question. We talk about this every year. And I say the same thing every year too, is that we do keep our finger on the pulse. We've been looking at the lightnings. We do have some neighboring communities that have them currently. Fitchburg has, I think, 2. I think Oregon has some on order. I would love to see them have a year or 2 or 3 under their belt before we invest into them and the infrastructure that goes along with them. I think there's a spot for them. I truly do. I don't want to test them out here. I'd rather have, knowing that they have them pretty close to us, let them vet them out and be honest with us. I think we have some pretty good partners there that they're going to be honest with us.
So no Cybertrucks on the menu?
Yeah, well, that'd be
Okay,
great.
just making sure.
So the other thing to note is that the Ford Lightnings only come in the crew cab. So the extended 4-door, 5.5-foot bed. So that's not great for how we use them. So we got to be careful on that. I'm hopeful that they move that into other models as the build out of electric vehicles becomes more prevalent or more prominent, that they'll move that into other classes. So I found that a lot of, like Fitchburg and Oregon, it's not so much the boots on the ground, it's more the administrative folks that have those types of trucks, or could be inspectors that have those trucks, that they don't really use the bed, for work type uses. But we are very much on, keeping our finger on the pulse of that, and I do think we'll have those in our fleet at some point. So.
Any other questions about what we've covered so far? So I think you have one more presentation for facilities. Are you covering that tonight,
Yeah.
Director? Okay.
Yeah, might as well.
12 pages.
Yeah, so with this, now, there could be some questions you may have for some other directors. This past year, we took on, or this year actually, we took on facility maintenance.
It's working out great.
It's working out great.
Maybe
Obviously,
not for you,
well,
but for everybody else.
It's just a time thing, and that's for another discussion. However, Tracy's doing great. He's our facilities manager. He's doing awesome. So I want to go through this. If there's any questions I can't answer about specific facilities, I'll talk to those directors and get back to you. So what we'd like to do in 2025 is do a mechanical equipment and roof assessment. So the biggest thing is to learn, what do we have and what's the life expectancy of those units. Right now we're flying blind. We have things out there that, geez, I'm not even sure when they were installed. It could have been in 2015 or it could have been 1998. I don't know. So we'd like to catalog everything and then put a life expectancy on those specific units. And then when those come up for replacement, just like fleet, we can analyze those and say, hey, yeah, this needs to be replaced, or yeah, I think we can bump that out our 2 years. But we have to have those on our radar somewhere. So our roofs have to be in a part of that as well. So we're looking at putting together, and I say to not exceed 25,000. It could be 5,000 to put that together. It's pretty specialized to find those people that actually do that aren't a part of Carrier or Hooper or somebody that's trying to sell you something. They actually do an independent analysis of those components, and they can put those into a catalog for us. All right. Sorry. Tony, how do you get this off here? Right here?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. All right, so the next thing is the EMS and food pantry building. So we have a rooftop air handler that needs to be replaced. That one I think has been kind of a legacy one in the CIP over the last couple of years, and so we're just looking at replacing that one this next year. Tracy has gone up there. I think he's thrown some parts at it just to keep it going, but that is due for replacement. Same, with the EMS building, the ambulance bay floor. And again, a lot of this comes from talking with the various directors in these buildings, but the ambulance bay floor, to do a thorough cleaning and sealing of it. Apparently it gets very slippery, especially during the wet, rain events, or especially during the snow storms in the winter months. It gets very slippery. So they want to have that, clean, get all the oils out of it, and then put an epoxy floor. You kind of see those epoxy floors for your garage floor epoxies. So it has a little more grit on it, a little more, a little less slippery than a polished concrete floor. And then bay door number 1. Apparently this has been hit a couple times, which they have hopefully tried to minimize by putting some lights in that shows when the door is all the way up or all the way down. And I think some of their operations, they have to have a second person when backing.
Use spotters.
They have to have spotters. So I think right now it's time to actually replace that door. I think they were using a door that was pretty much bent back into place. So replacing that door and putting a new track on and operator. They've apparently earned it. They've showed that they can take care of it. Moving on to the fire department, it was recommended that the boiler be replaced for the in-floor heat. And this came from Assistant Chief Miller on this one. I think they had some, and forgive me, they had their consultant come in and look at the boiler system because they had some issues with it, and they recommended replacement, and so that's in 2025. Another project from the fire department that they brought up is to actually put destratification fans in the ceiling. We actually have those at Public Works that they run all the time, and they work great in my opinion, especially with the in-floor heat. That basically that fan works to move the air around and distribute the air more efficiently. And so they're looking at putting a series of fans in. Assistant Chief Miller, I think he's already got quotes to do that and already has locations to put those D-strap fans in. From an energy standpoint, I think they're pretty efficient and they move the air around a lot better. They would also like to put garage door lights in, much like the EMS did. And again, this just shows when the door is all the way up, it goes green. If it's red, that means no-go because the door is not all the way up. So they recommended putting these types of lights in, much like the EMS. I think this is pretty good insurance, pretty cheap insurance when it comes to replacing doors and trucks or repairing trucks. And then a painting project. They would like to paint the break room, the office areas, and the hallway. That's estimated to be around $15,000. Dispatch room flooring, right now it's a tile, I guess is not performing well, has some cracks in it. So they'd like to add a more textured vinyl plank flooring over the top of the tile, which will help to, they're also waterproof too, and they have some texture with them. I actually just did this in my own bathroom. It's pretty slick. So the Opera House, again, working with Bill Brem. They like to do stage refinishing. I think this has been kind of a legacy project that's been the CIP before. There's also an opportunity to work with SOFA on some of these projects as well. They raise funds for the Opera House. But this was a $25,000 cost to refinish the stage. The elevator expansion tank came from Tracy. So the elevator gets inspected annually, and they do have some things that they kind of point out that, hey, you should be paying attention to. This one came up, and so we'd like to replace that in 2025.
Is that going to make that one go faster?
Probably not. So this next project here is an electric winch for the chandelier. So I think annually Bill has to go up in the attic, the bats in the belfry type thing. He goes up there and has to hand crank the chandeliers down so they can change out lights and to clean them. So he's actually up in the rafters over the auditorium and hand cranks it down. And I was kind of shocked to learn there's no even hand winch system. I kind of pictured something like on a boat. It freewheels. And so if he were to drop the handle, the whole thing can come crashing down. Yeah, exactly. And so we talked through it, and putting an electric winch that you can actually press a button from the floor level to get that to come down is what we're looking at doing. Or from the back, the lighting area is probably a more appropriate place to put the button. Also, so you're not putting staff up in the attic. Apparently they're walking across the rafters, which is not a good practice. You take one bad step, and I fear for what could happen. So I think this would be something we'd want to strongly consider from a liability standpoint to get done.
I mean, we know paranormal tourism is a really big thing, but
Yeah.
we don't want to promote that.
Yeah. I don't want to go up there. It's
Brett,
yeah.
that one you may want to talk to AJ about getting it done this year.
So I'm not sure the next time he has to go up there. That also could be a good one for the CIVMIC grant. So every year there's a grant opportunity for that CIVMIC has. I think it's $5,000 or $6,000, but I think that's one we could look into. I think that'd be one that before he has to go up there again, that we get that done.
Yep.
Learning all sorts of neat things. So the Opera House window replacement, this has been a legacy one for quite some time. We're going to have a window assessment done to see what needs to happen. Keep in mind, this is a historic building, and we got to be real careful on what type of windows go back in there, and they have to get approvals. So we got to be careful stepping through this one, just to let you know. But we'll get an assessment done on that this year and figure out what types of windows need to go back in there and really how much it's going to cost. Basement waterproofing, unfortunately, there's been another leak in the basement in the Hall of Fame room. Tim, was it 3 or 4 years ago, they did some waterproofing in there. Apparently it's not working. So we're looking at waterproofing that. We got it kind of at bay, I would say, with some caulking, but there's some other stuff going on there that we got to protect that building. It's down into the foundation type of stuff. So, then moving on to the next one, to Public Works Building. Sorry. So we have increased our staffing at Public Works. We originally built the building in anticipation of growing our staff and taking on, Parks came out to us, what would that look like? And that was, at that time, 2 staff members, which we had office space for. Well, we've now grown by 5 staff members that require office space. So we're looking at moving up into the mezzanine area. We've already gone through some plans to put up there, and already have worked with the state with those plans as far as elevators go, and the need to not have an elevator in there, which was approved to not put an elevator in the mezzanine area. So we're looking at putting 5 office spaces up there. So we have a need for 3 right now. So planning for any future staffing in that area. So there'd be 2 extra office areas constructed. We'd use those office spaces for the PPE room and maybe a small meeting room with staff, not the public because of ADA considerations. But we're looking to build out that mezzanine area, essentially put up walls, extend the plenum over from the mezzanine, and then also electrical and fire suppression and all that stuff. And then GIS data migration. Seems like a common theme. Everything's going to the cloud. So in 2020, the latter part of 2025, our current system will no longer be supported. So we need to change where it's currently being housed and migrate that over into a new cloud-based system. And MSA has given us a projected cost of $11,000 to do that. Man Park Certified Survey Map. So this is in coordination with Stoughton Utilities, and it'll be a joint cost with Stoughton Utilities. So Man Park, if you look at the parcels, it does not separate the plant from the park. So we're looking at having a certified survey map done or a CSM done in the Mant Park area. It's a good time to do it after the park enhancements. That will separate off the Stoughton Utilities portion and also the portion that Stoughton Utilities may grow into. Years ago, it was earmarked that they would be putting some of their settling tanks towards Troll Beach at one point, but that was never written or never put in a CSM or anything like that. So we're looking at doing that this next year in coordination with them, and they'll be participating in that cost. The powerhouse, so we're looking at...
Excuse me,
Yeah.
did you say they want to put their acetylene tanks by Troll Beach?
Settling.
Oh, settling.
Yeah, not acetylene, sorry. I'll take a drink of water, yeah. So, yeah.
I was going to question that.
A huge acetylene tank, yeah. So, no. So God, this is horrible. The powerhouse, so this has been a discussion, last year about the powerhouse. This came up during the last CIP budget. This year, we're actually doing environmental work on the building, and then we're also doing some remediation of any asbestos or any lead paint. That'll be happening this year. And then next year, we're looking at actually doing rehab work to the roof area and the windows and the foundation. So this is all being done through an architect that specializes in historic buildings, working with the state. So we are on track to get this rehabbed, at least the shell back to where it needs to be, and then we can decide what we want to do with that building long term. Yeah.
I have a question, curiosity. With the closing or the filling in of the head race, what is going to be happening to the cavity that goes underneath the street?
Yeah, great questions. That'll be filled. So
It'll be
basically,
filled.
it'll be a slurry fill that will fill that cavity. So basically, on the west side of that building, the tail race, the water came in there and went through the turbines at that time, and then came out to the south side of the building. So there is like a basement on the east side of the building, but then that cavity where the water came through, that will all be filled. And so that raceway goes under the bridge as well, so all that void space will be filled in. It's quite an undertaking, so we'll, and also working with these historic, these architects that specialize in that, we are gonna look at any opportunities for grants. Sometimes municipalities don't qualify for some, whereas an individual may qualify for more opportunities, but we'll explore any opportunities that we have for grant dollars on that. Public safety building, replacement of the automatic transfer switch on the generator. So essentially, if the power goes out here, that switch kicks over and makes the power from the generator, it'll power various lights and outlets in this building. The transfer switch, we've been told, needs to be switched out. It still works, but it may be unreliable. So we need to make that change. That's a kind of a critical priority, I would say. Senior Center. Again, this one's been talked about for quite some years. To replace the roof, the cedar shake roof at the Senior Center with a metal shake kind of style roof. So that's we're looking at doing that next year. That's a $300,000 price tag to do the annex plus the main building. And then with that, we'll also be doing the solar upgrade on that, which we have been talking about. It was in the CIP. So at this time next year, we'll be doing the solar upgrade as well, if approved. At the Senior Center, the lower lot, we're looking at repaving that, and there's an inlet structure that we're going to be redoing for stormwater. So we're looking at just doing the pavement replacement on that lower section. And I think that might be it. Looks like I left one open for.
That's for that. Yeah, it's for that.
For that. Oh yeah, that last one that's open is for the ceiling tiles over here. So. So that's it in a nutshell. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Oh, I'm raising my hand for myself. So
I'm not calling on you.
I was thinking, this is probably a question for Director Ellinger. I thought we'd approve money for the Senior Center. Did that just not get spent then? And because I remember Director Scheel had it in his budget for the roof replacement.
That has been, I don't know if it was 24 or 23, but yes, it was in the budget at one point. The problem that they were having, correct me if I'm wrong, is that they were trying to replace it with a similar type roof, and they had no luck, so now we're looking at a metal roof, I believe.
Yeah, and so we went through we kind of took this over, we went through all of the CIPs, and it wasn't in there at that time. It was in the 2025 budget, so I'm not sure if it was moved out because of that, or?
I'd have to look at the various versions to tell you whether it would.
Right, so regardless, we're looking at doing that in 2025. We have gotten quotes from various roof companies, and what they're telling us is that if we do get approval, let's say in November, that we move quickly and get the PO issued and get them on the schedule to do the roof replacement as quickly as possible. Because if we were to wait like into the spring of 2025, then their schedules are going to be filled up. So we do have one. We'll reach out to at least 3 to do the bidding process, but there's at least one that is very interested and I think would bid on it. That said, if you get it in, a lot of these projects, after it's approved in the budget, we start to issue POs. It's just a contract to purchase. It doesn't mean we've given any money, but it's really to get these things, on the hook.
Okay, that's good. Any questions for Director Hebert about any of the requests? All right, so next up, we have discussion and possible action, but I think we generally don't take action until everyone is presented. So I don't know if there's any anything I'm missing on that you wanted to add?
We just put it on the agenda in case you wanted to take action.
All right. Is everyone in agreement? We want to hear all the presentations before we, okay. So,
What I would like is there were some discussions from Parks about a couple of items that could make a difference in determinations for the next time. So if I could ask for what it would look like if it was removed or moved to the next year, so that we have a good idea of how much we're working with in the next meeting, Director Erlinger.
Well, we're going, based upon the instructions given tonight, we'll update the Excel document, and that will have the bottom line totals.
Great.
And just in rough figures, if one of the projects is 600,000 and we're going to move it from 25 to 26, back
Yeah.
of the napkin math.
Yeah.
so we'll probably
Sounds
have a
good.
version 4.
And,
I
yeah,
think.
and there's some grants.
Maybe 5.
Yeah, there's some grants tied to them too, so I just want to, that's, kitchen math becomes, long napkin math with some of them, so, that sounds good to me. As long as those grants can move along with them, then I think that's okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if we have the grants included in the spreadsheet for those, but yeah, if you are aware that we've got a good chance of getting the grant, we include it.
Yeah, and kind of that big one, we've already accepted half of it and have already put in an invoice, so it is active. So that's that major one, that's about
Yeah.
almost $1 million. But that project, for the most part, like we kind of discussed tonight, the big part of that would probably not be until 2026, likely.
That's a relief.
All right, any other questions about moving forward? Alderman Maskey?
I have one. I'm going to go the other direction. I really would like to see us, if we are going to move forward with adding city signs in this budget, that we included them, those city signs having the electronic messaging on them, because of the fact that if we don't, then we're sitting there, we spent X amount of dollars for a really good looking sign, and then in front of that sign, we're going to stick a movable propane driven electronic sign to get messages out to the community. Doesn't make sense to me. I think we should just, for $28,000? Roughly. $28,000?
Roughly.
So,
And if we're gonna bite that bullet, let's bite the whole thing.
Yeah, I think the whole thing was, closer to 100
To build it all out.
for
Because
the,
there was 3, so initially, we asked for ARPA funds to do this, and the idea behind that was, messaging for public health reasons. So,
Well, my point is that, it's the entrance to the city. We use those temporary signs quite a bit for alerting the public to brush pickup, to setting them eye, to God knows what else,
emergencies.
whatever else is going on. But, I just find it short-sighted if we're going to build signs. Let's build things the correct way, or let's just not build it at all.
And then I guess we'd have to think about if it's going to go out at the edge of the town, are people not going to see it because you have to be coming into. So I think.
Well, you got to come back into town.
well, so
But if you're out on 138, because that's where it would go now, and then I don't
we
come
should
that
put a
way very
second
often.
well, right now, a lot of people come 138 because of 51's closure. And there are going to be a lot of 51 closures in the future that are going to pull, like, I can't, for my own commute, I have to go down to 138 instead of going up. So I could see that coming back home from work.
Right.
But
For the people in town
Yeah,
who don't
more,
travel
more,
outside of town,
more
we just have
so,
to think.
yeah, more so I'm in agreement is that you'd have to retroactively work on the other sign, so that's where I'm kind of, I'm not sure, but I have another.
Is there an appetite to look at that sign by the fire department, especially because that billboard, we're still actively pursuing getting rid of that, and that's where that would kind of be stationed, is in that area?
That's what I was thinking.
We can get an updated cost and bring it.
Is that,
Yeah.
that's amenable, I can look into that.
And then I guess the only other question I have is the big elephant in the room is the riverfront project, whether, even with discussion, will this discussion with the DNR change? And I don't know if you have to answer that right now, but will that, will we get any information in time to know what we actually need to budget? And so that, something, I guess, for the next.
Well, let's just say if they
meeting.
don't, I'm gonna request that they attend our next meeting. You guys can talk to them directly, because I'm at my wit's end, at least the permits that we have in there, and I've expressed that to the secretary for the region. So, I expect them to, have a decision, by now we should have had something written, and we don't, so that's going to be kind of the discussion on our end, so.
Hopefully we plan as if it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, and if it, we'll give you an update probably in September.
Well, and I guess, Director Ellinger, so we've waited before in the past on borrowing for that. How does that work if we were to do that again? Say we don't know when the permits are coming in, but it may get approved.
Well, we can include it in the budget again for 25 with proposed bond note proceeds. And if we're still in limbo next April, when we start working on the bond issue, we can pull it out.
Okay.
But like you were saying, Alder Payton, is that, all right, we've earmarked $1.2 million or whatever it is, it doesn't happen, yet we kicked another project out to 2026. So that's the rub, Yep.
They should just give us more money. That's just how it is.
Yeah.
Maybe we should pass a council resolution to politely ask the DNR to get off the proverbial pot.
Anything.
I don't know if that'll help.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes in September. All right, I would be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.